You wake up tired, even after 8 full hours. You go through your day with a dull ache behind your eyes, but no illness. Your body moves, your mouth speaks, but your soul drags behind like dead weight. Nothing is obviously wrong, and that's what makes it worse. Because deep down, you know the truth. You're not tired from what you're doing. You're tired from who you're pretending to be. This is not physical fatigue. This is existential exhaustion, the kind Carl Jung warned about. The weight that comes not from labor, but from living out of alignment with your own nature. From becoming so good at meeting expectations that you can't even feel your own desires anymore. And now you feel like a stranger to yourself, trapped in a life that keeps moving while something inside you stopped long ago. Jordan Peterson calls this the unbearable heaviness of self-betrayal. The pain of knowing, on some deep, unspoken level, that the role you're performing isn't you. You're efficient, you're reliable, but you're not real. And this life you've built, brick by brick, is starting to feel like a prison you can't explain to anyone. Because it looks fine from the outside. But the Stoics wouldn't tell you to chase happiness. They'd tell you to chase clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke." Peterson builds on this. You cannot find purpose by lying to yourself. Put them together and the message is clear. You're not tired because life is hard. You're tired because you've stopped telling yourself the truth. This video is not about fixing fatigue with hacks or habits. It's about facing the silence inside you with such brutal honesty that it finally starts to speak again. We're going to look at the real sources of this invisible weight, and more importantly, how to put it down without throwing your whole life away. If this message cuts deep, do 3 things. Like the video so it reaches someone else drowning in silence. Subscribe to Victory Stoic, where we're launching a new series fusing Stoic fire with modern psychology, especially Peterson's insights on meaning, structure, and self-confrontation. Comment 1 if this hits home. Comment 0 if not yet. Or better, drop your story. 1 sentence, 1 moment, 1 line of truth. Your voice matters more than you think. This isn't a burnout video, this is a mirror. The problem isn't how much you're carrying. The problem is how long you've carried it without asking if it was ever really yours. Let's begin. Number 1, you're not tired from work. You're tired from not being yourself. You wake up and the weight is already there. Not on your back, not on your chest, inside. Like something sacred is being smothered every day. You keep pretending to be someone you're not. You move through your life performing roles that don't fit you anymore, and it's killing you in a way no one can see, because the death is spiritual, not physical. Most people think burnout comes from effort, from long hours, from tight deadlines. But that's not your story. You've handled pressure before. You've worked longer hours for harder things and felt alive. The exhaustion you feel now isn't about the load. It's about the mask. You're drained, not because you're doing too much, but because none of it feels like you. Carl Jung called this psychic exhaustion, the slow destruction of the soul that happens when you chronically suppress your true self. When your words don't match your beliefs. When your smile hides your doubt. When every decision is filtered through the question, what will they think? The self you've buried doesn't die, it waits. But while it waits, your energy leaks out through every compromise, every nod of false agreement, every silent moment where you wanted to scream but chose to say, "I'm fine." This is not new. Marcus Aurelius warned us about this centuries ago. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential, because doing less brings a kind of peace. He wasn't saying work less. He was saying stop living a life filled with non-essential performances, the kind that drain you while producing nothing of real value. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from striving but from straying, from abandoning who you really are in favor of what others expect. Let's look at David, 42, from Portland. A high-level consultant, smart, driven. He makes good money, has a wife, 2 kids, and a house in the suburbs. By all measures, he won. But he drags himself out of bed every morning with dread in his chest. Not because the job is hard, but because it isn't him. He wanted to teach. He wanted to write. But somewhere along the way, those things got labeled unrealistic, and he traded them for security. He thought the fatigue would fade once he hit 6 figures. It didn't. It got louder. In therapy, David said something most people never admit out loud. "I don't hate my life. I just feel like I disappeared from it." That sentence? That's what real burnout sounds like. Jordan Peterson writes, "When you betray yourself even a little, you weaken your character. And if you do that enough, you become someone you no longer recognize." He's not talking about some abstract moral decline. He's talking about this exact feeling, the soul-deep tiredness that grows in people who function perfectly on the outside but are spiritually bankrupt within. From a psychological standpoint, this is called self-alienation, a chronic disconnect between your external behavior and internal identity. Studies show that people who frequently suppress their authentic emotions in favor of social approval suffer higher rates of anxiety, depression, and chronic fatigue. It's not just emotional, it's chemical. Your nervous system knows when you're lying to yourself, and it makes you pay for it, first in energy, then in meaning, and eventually in mental health. So how do you stop? Step 1. Audit your life for approval-seeking behavior. Look at your calendar, your conversations, your decisions. Ask, which of these do I do to keep peace? Which of these do I do because they feel like truth? Write it down. Get honest. Brutally honest. Step 2. Start saying no, even to small things, especially where your instinct says yes out of guilt. That tension you feel? That's the gap between your true self and your public self. Closing that gap is the first act of spiritual recovery. Step 3. Schedule solitude with a purpose. Not scrolling, not distracting, just silence and a journal. Ask yourself this question: if no one expected anything from me, what would I do with my time? The answer won't come easy. It's buried beneath years of compliance, but keep asking. The fatigue lifts as clarity rises. You don't need a new job, you need a new standard for alignment. Work is not the enemy. Pretense is. Still here? Still reading? Comment 1 if you feel this ache in your own chest. This isn't about quitting your life. It's about returning to it, fully, freely, fiercely. You're not weak, you're just exhausted from dragging a false version of yourself through a life that was never yours to begin with. That ends now, not because someone gave you permission, but because you finally decided to stop asking for it. Number 2. You're not resting. You're escaping. You scroll like your life depends on it. Video after video, meme after meme, anything to keep the noise going. Not because you enjoy it, because you can't stand the silence. You tell yourself you're relaxing, taking a break. But it's not rest, it's escape. And deep down, you know it. You're not recharging, you're running. Running from what? From the truth. From the quiet voice inside that asks questions you don't want to answer. The ones that echo at 1 a.m. when the battery's low and the screen finally goes dark. What are you doing with your life? Why are you always anxious? Why does everything feel so dull, even when it's supposed to be fun? That voice doesn't yell, it waits. And because it waits, you drown it in distraction. You call it downtime, rest, self-care. But what you're really doing is keeping yourself numb, because the moment you stop moving, the weight creeps back in. The emptiness, the shame, the awareness that time is passing, and you have no idea what you're doing with it. Carl Jung warned about this. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. That's not a metaphor. It's exactly what you're doing. You'll binge, scroll, refresh, overbook, overeat, anything but be still. Because in stillness, the mask cracks. In stillness, the lies start whispering. And worst of all, you start to feel again. This isn't just a personal failure, it's a societal addiction. Neurologically, short-form content hijacks the dopamine system, the same system that responds to drugs, sugar, gambling. You scroll not because it's pleasurable, but because your brain is now wired to chase stimulation over satisfaction. And that chase keeps you from accessing real rest, the kind that actually heals. Real rest doesn't entertain you, it restores you. And restoration requires facing the very thing you're running from, yourself. Take Lena, 39, from Colorado. Corporate job, 2 kids. Smart, respected, responsible. But every night after the kids were asleep, she'd get stuck in what she called the scroll. Hours gone. TikTok, Instagram, Reddit. Not laughing, not learning, just numbing. She told herself it was her only time for herself, but it never left her feeling better. Just more tired, more empty, like she'd lost something she couldn't name. What she'd lost was herself. In therapy, she was asked to sit in silence for 15 minutes a day. No phone, no music, just her and her breath. She couldn't do it for more than 3 minutes at first. Not because she was lazy, but because stillness felt unbearable. Like she was peeling back layers of noise and finding nothing underneath. But with time, the silence softened. It stopped feeling like a threat. It became a place to land, not escape from. That's when her exhaustion began to lift. Not because she did less, but because she stopped avoiding more. Jordan Peterson puts it this way: you can't get away with avoiding who you are. You will pay for it, one way or another. That payment often shows up as fatigue, apathy, lack of focus. You think you're just tired, but really, your body is begging you to sit down and meet yourself again. The Stoics knew this. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And he wasn't talking about laziness. He was talking about misused attention. You're not wasting time on your phone. You're wasting the chance to face what's real, to reflect, to realign, to wake the hell up. So what do? Step 1, replace fake rest with real silence. Start small. 5 minutes, no screens, no distractions. Just sit, breathe, listen. It will feel pointless. It will feel irritating. That's the point. You're detoxing. Step 2, journal before entertainment. Make a rule. Before you open YouTube or scroll, write 1 page about how you feel. Not what you did, how you feel. This slows down the impulse, forces awareness, trains honesty. Step 3, choose 1 day a week as a noise fast. No social media, no passive content. Use the time to walk, write, reflect. Your brain will panic. Let it. That panic is the sign that silence has become your enemy, and silence is exactly where your recovery lives. The point isn't to hate entertainment. The point is to reclaim your authority over it. To stop being a consumer and start being a creator of thoughts, of space, of meaning. You don't need more rest. You need more truth. You need to rebuild your relationship with stillness, not as something to fear, but something to lean into. But if you're honest with yourself, if you know the exhaustion you feel isn't from doing too much, but from feeling too little, then you already know what this is. You're not tired. You're disconnected. You're not lazy. You're running, and the only way back is to stop and listen. Number 3, you're not burned out. You're directionless. You wake up and you feel the weight, but you can't name it. You're not sick. You're not grieving. Your life from the outside looks functional, but deep inside there's a slow burning fog. Not sharp pain, not crisis. Just a dull ache, a kind of quiet erosion that follows you through every conversation, every task, every so-called normal day. You're not tired from work. You're tired from wandering. This isn't burnout. This is aimlessness. And there is no fatigue more soul-killing than the kind that comes from not knowing what you're moving toward. You can be strong. You can be disciplined. You can show up, hit deadlines, take care of your people. But if you don't know why you're doing it, that energy won't last. It can't. Because the human spirit was never run on routine alone. It needs a direction, a reason to suffer, a purpose to organize the chaos. Without that, everything, even the good things, start to feel empty. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, a man's worth is no greater than his ambitions. The Stoics didn't see purpose as luxury. They saw it as oxygen. Without it, you suffocate, even if no one sees you choking. Carl Jung, too, wrote about the crisis of meaning as the most severe affliction of the modern psyche. He warned that we live in a world filled with stimuli, yet starved of significance. We chase progress but forget the point. We check off milestones but never ask if the road leads somewhere worth going. And here's the trap. You think you're just exhausted. You blame the job, the relationship, the schedule. But your real problem isn't overload. It's disorientation. You're sprinting on a treadmill that goes nowhere, and every day you tell yourself, if I just keep going, this emptiness will pass. It won't, because what you're missing isn't rest, it's meaning. Let's talk about Andrew, 41, from Seattle. He built a successful career in marketing, had a loyal partner, a house, a decent social life, but under it all, he felt like a man performing his own life. He did everything right, yet nothing felt real. He'd scroll job boards at midnight, not because he needed money, but because he needed a reason, something to wake up for beyond obligation. The feeling kept growing. I'm not burned out, I'm just lost. It wasn't until Andrew stumbled across Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning and later the writings of Marcus Aurelius, that he started to confront the truth. He wasn't depressed, he was disconnected from purpose. He'd built a life based on safety, not aim, and safety alone had made him spiritually fragile. Jordan Peterson echoes this reality. The person who has a why can bear almost any how. It's not just a nice quote. It's neuroscience. Studies in positive psychology show that people who operate with a defined sense of meaning have lower cortisol levels, stronger immune systems, and higher resilience in the face of stress. Meaning doesn't just help you endure life, it helps you survive it well. So what do you do when you've lost direction? Step 1. Stop pretending it's about burnout. Take 1 hour this week to sit in silence. Write down everything that drains you, not just tasks, but ways of being. The meetings you fake your smile in. The work that feels mechanical. The social roles you play on autopilot. What part of your week makes you feel alive? What part of your day feels like it belongs to someone else? Step 2. Name your aim. No one else can do this for you. Don't aim for success. That's a measurement, not a direction. Don't aim for happiness. That's a symptom, not a cause. Ask instead, what kind of person do I want to become? What problem in the world breaks your heart? What skill do you secretly want to master? What value would you defend even if it cost you approval? Write that aim down. Even if it feels vague or messy, truth doesn't always arrive fully formed, but direction beats perfection. Every time. Step 3. Make your days serve your aim. This is where Stoicism becomes your weapon. Aurelius didn't chase motivation, he chased alignment. Every action, every decision was filtered through this question: does this serve the purpose I've chosen, or does it pull me away from it? Try this. Before bed, review your day through that same filter. Did today move you closer to your aim or not? No shame, no guilt, just awareness. Purpose isn't about control, it's about course correction. Step 4. Cut the noise. Distraction is the enemy of clarity. The more you consume, the harder it becomes to hear your own inner compass. Choose an hour a day to go dark. No phone, no entertainment, just you and the questions. It will feel unbearable at first. That's because you've been outsourcing your direction to other people's lives. Reclaim it. Seneca said, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. You don't need a new career, you need a destination. You don't need more motivation, you need meaning that commands action. If you're brave, drop a line about what aim you feel called to, even if it terrifies you. That honesty is where the real map begins. You're not burned out, you're drifting. You're not out of energy, you're out of reason. And it's not too late to turn the wheel and choose your direction before another year passes and you look back wondering why none of it felt like yours. Number 4. You're addicted to being busy, so you don't have to hear the emptiness. You say you're overwhelmed, that your schedule's packed, that you just need a break, a reset, a weekend away. But the truth is uglier, and you know it. You don't hate being busy, you need it. You cling to it like a drug, because the second the meetings end, the inbox clears and the room goes quiet, something inside you starts to scream. You're not afraid of rest, you're afraid of what rest might reveal. Busyness is your armor. You wear it proudly, sometimes desperately, like it means something. You say, I've just been swamped, like it proves your worth. You take on too much, say yes to things that drain you, fill your day with tasks that don't matter, just so you don't have to face the silence. The kind of silence that whispers, what are you really doing with your life? The kind that asks, if you weren't constantly in motion, would there be anything left of you at all? This is not discipline, it's distraction. The Stoics warned about this in ways we rarely notice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you seek tranquility, do less. But he didn't mean laziness. He meant the courage to do only what matters and to stop using activity as anesthesia. He meant turning down the noise, not because you're tired, but because you're finally ready to listen. Let me tell you about Rachel, 38, from Phoenix. On paper, she was thriving. Full-time career in HR, raising 2 kids, side business, weekly volunteering, half-marathon training. Friends called her a machine. She called herself goal-oriented. But something inside her kept fraying. Not loudly, slowly. She snapped at her husband for small things. Her sleep got lighter. She forgot what laughter felt like when it wasn't forced. One weekend, her youngest son asked her, Mom, how come you never sit down? And she froze. Because she didn't know how to answer. Not truthfully, not without admitting that stillness felt like drowning. That the thought of being idle, even for an hour, made her feel like she might fall apart. Her life wasn't too full, it was too loud. In therapy, Rachel came face to face with the truth. She was terrified of the void. The one that opened up after her mother died. The one that whispered she was never enough unless she was achieving. The one that told her, if you stop moving, everything you've been avoiding will find you. And that voice was right. Carl Jung said people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Rachel did. You do. We all do. We fill our calendars to silence the ache that we are lost. Not directionless, but disconnected. Not weak, but afraid to feel. So we glorify the grind. We idolize hustle. We call it ambition. But it's not. It's evasion. Jordan Peterson speaks directly to this trap. Discipline is not suppression. It is integration. And that's the difference. True structure doesn't hide you from yourself. It helps you face yourself with clarity. But most people don't use structure for meaning. They use it as a wall, something to slam shut in the face of inner chaos. The problem isn't that you do too much. It's that what you do doesn't bring you closer to anything that matters. You fill your life with movement that looks like purpose but feels like running. And then you wonder why, after accomplishing so much, you still feel so damn hollow. Let's talk about Eli, 45, from Boston. His job in tech kept him running on fumes for years. He'd wake up at 5 a.m. to hit the gym, take calls from 7 time zones, mentor junior staff, even host podcasts on weekends. Everyone envied his output. No one knew his secret. He couldn't be alone for more than 20 minutes without anxiety eating him alive. One night on vacation, the Wi-Fi cut out. No distractions, no work, no updates, nothing. For the first time in years, Eli sat with himself and didn't know what to do. That night, he cried. Not because anything bad happened, but because nothing was left to distract him from the quiet question inside. Why do you hate being with yourself so much? It wasn't trauma. It wasn't burnout. It was avoidance disguised as high performance. This is more common than you think. The successful person who never stops working. The parent who overschedules their children to avoid their own reflection. The overachiever who crashes when no one's watching. The endless grind is not proof of strength. It's often a mask for spiritual collapse. Seneca, centuries before modern psychology, said, "Life is long if you know how to use it." But you don't. You spend life, you don't live it. You fill it, but don't feel it. You're not exhausted from work. You're exhausted from pretending it gives you meaning. And what's underneath that pretending? Emptiness. Not the bad kind. Not failure. Just space. The kind that scares you because it holds the possibility that everything you've built might be meaningless without the noise to drown that truth out. So what now? Not more tips, not more hacks. Just this. Let yourself stop. And don't fill the pause. Sit down, turn off the background hum, no to-do list, no productivity apps. Just sit and listen. At first you'll panic. That's your nervous system detoxing. Then if you stay long enough, you'll start to hear something else. The faint voice that's been drowned out by all your busy. The part of you that remembers who you were before the hustle took over. Still here? Still breathing? Comment 4 if this scraped the mask. Or 0 if it didn't land for you. And if you're strong enough, drop one honest sentence. What have you been using busyness to avoid? You're not running out of time. You're running out of distractions. And when the last one falls away, who's left? That answer will change everything. Number 5, your mind is heavy because you haven't forgiven yourself. You walk around like you're fine. You laugh, you work, you show up. But under it all, there's a tightness in your chest that never fully leaves. A weight behind your eyes that doesn't come from exhaustion. It comes from memory. Not the kind you cherish. The kind that haunts you. Something happened. Something you did or didn't do. And no matter how much time has passed, part of you is still trapped there. You think you've moved on, but you haven't. You've just gotten better at performing around the wound. That's the hidden cost of regret. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just leaks, slowly, quietly. It drains your energy. It dulls your joy. It keeps you from being fully present because a part of you is always stuck in a moment that cannot be undone. You blame fatigue, stress, just being busy. But deep down you know the truth. You're tired because you've never truly forgiven yourself. Stoicism doesn't dismiss guilt, it acknowledges it. But it also demands that you confront it with logic and courage, not carry it around like a badge of shame. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The implication is clear. Stop punishing yourself for not being who you should have been. Become who you know you can be. The past isn't a prison, it's raw material. Carl Jung called this shadow work, facing the parts of yourself you've exiled, the choices that make you wince, the actions that turned you into someone you didn't recognize. Jung believed that if you ignore these pieces of yourself, they grow in the dark and rule you from behind a mask of control. But when you turn and face them, when you name them, when you drag them into the light without flinching, they lose their power. Because the truth is, you are not your worst moment. You are what you choose to do with that moment now. Let's talk about Michael, 46, from St. Louis. 12 years ago, he cheated on his wife. He confessed. They divorced. He rebuilt his life, found love again, built a business. People say he's moved on. But Michael wakes up at 3 a.m. more often than he admits, staring at the ceiling, replaying what he did, not because he wants her back, but because he's still convinced he ruined something sacred. That guilt has bled into everything. It's kept him from showing up fully for his new partner. It's kept him from celebrating his own wins. He lives in constant debt to a version of himself he can't outrun. His healing began not when he justified what he did, but when he finally said out loud, "I hurt someone. But I am no longer that man. I own it. I forgive the man who didn't know better, and I will prove it by never being him again." That sentence changed everything. Jordan Peterson puts it simply, when you carry unresolved guilt, it twists your soul. He doesn't mean that poetically, he means it neurologically. Studies in trauma psychology show that unprocessed guilt creates a chronic stress state, elevated cortisol, weakened immune response, disrupted sleep. Your body remembers what you won't admit. Forgiving yourself is not the same as forgetting. It's not erasure, it's integration. You don't get to skip the pain, but you do get to redeem it. And the first step is to stop pretending that pain isn't still running your life. So what does this look like? Step 1, write the full truth. No euphemisms, no excuses. One page. What did you do or fail to do that still haunts you? What consequences did it cause? Write it like a confession. Then read it out loud, to yourself, without flinching. Step 2, separate guilt from identity. You are not what you did. You are who you choose to be now. That doesn't erase the damage, but it reclaims your capacity to act with integrity moving forward. That's what Stoicism demands, action, not shame. Step 3, make amends where possible. Sometimes you can apologize, sometimes you can't, but you can always live differently. Redemption isn't in words, it's in discipline, in how you show up, in how you never repeat what broke you. Seneca said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Regret is useful, for a moment, but when it becomes your identity, it robs you of your future. Forgiveness is not self-indulgence, it's the only way forward. You can't outrun the past, but you can outgrow it. And the moment you stop feeding your shame is the moment you start recovering your life, not from anyone else, from yourself. Number 6, you're tired because you're at war with yourself. You say you're exhausted, but your days aren't filled with chaos. You keep things in order. You show up. You're responsible. You're easy to be around. And that's the problem. You've made yourself so easy to be around, you've become impossible to recognize. Your mind is loud because your mouth is silent. You keep the peace with everyone except yourself. This is a war no one sees, because from the outside you're calm. You smile. You agree. You say yes to things you don't want. You say no to the things you do want, because you don't want to upset anyone. You compromise before anyone asks. You apologize before anyone gets upset. You hold your breath in rooms where you're supposed to breathe. And slowly, you vanish. That's where the fatigue comes from. Not from work, not from stress, but from the constant, invisible tension of living against yourself. You've silenced your own voice so many times, you've forgotten what it even sounds like. You defer to others out of habit. You compromise your needs because it's easier. And every time you do, something inside you withers. Not dramatically, just enough. And it happens again and again, until the fatigue becomes your baseline and you stop questioning it, because now it just feels like life. But it's not life, it's slow death by self-erasure. Marcus Aurelius warned of this. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. And you haven't really lived. Not if every move is a negotiation between your truth and someone else's comfort. Not if your days are spent performing harmony while your inner world screams. You're not burned out, you're suffocating in politeness. You've mistaken emotional self-sacrifice for maturity, and it's draining you in ways sleep can't fix. Let's talk about Nate, 40, from Atlanta. He was the good guy. Quiet, agreeable, always there when you needed him. He never said what he really thought. Not at work, not at home. He didn't want to offend, didn't want to disappoint, didn't want conflict. And over the years, people praised him for being balanced, chill, steady. But what they didn't see was that every compliment came with a cost. Nate was chronically tired, not from his job, not from his kids, from biting his tongue every day, from nodding when he wanted to speak, from holding back opinions, dreams, even boundaries, because keeping the peace had become his full-time job. It all collapsed one night during a small disagreement with his wife over dinner plans. Something snapped, not because of the argument, but because he realized he couldn't remember the last time he had a real preference. He'd spent so long avoiding friction, he forgot who he was without it. Carl Jung would call this losing the self in the persona. You become the mask, the version of you that makes things easier, the agreeable one, the flexible one, the accommodating one. And eventually you confuse that mask for your identity, until you wake up one day and realize you're living for others and dying for yourself. Jordan Peterson writes, if you avoid conflict to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. That's not metaphor, that's diagnosis. You are tired because every day you suppress 100 small truths. Every it's fine that isn't fine. Every sure that should have been no. Every don't worry about it that's actually eating you alive. It's not the big betrayals that break you, it's the small ones you commit against yourself, over and over. This kind of imbalance isn't visible. You won't find it in lab results, but you feel it in your body. The tight jaw, the shallow breath, the tension in your back that never quite leaves. Your nervous system knows you're lying. That's why you can't relax. You've trained your body to associate stillness with guilt, because when there's no one to please, you don't know who to be. So what do? Not a list of tips, not a productivity hack. You do the one thing you've avoided for years. You tell the truth. You start saying what you mean, even when it's awkward. You ask for what you need, even if it disrupts the pattern. You set a boundary, not to hurt others, but to finally stop hurting yourself. You let people be uncomfortable. You let things be messy. Because your peace can't come at the price of your own presence anymore. Because until you stop silencing yourself, the exhaustion won't end. You'll sleep, but you won't rest. You'll smile, but you won't feel joy. You'll live, but never fully. And the world doesn't need your compliance. It needs your truth, spoken, firm, and finally heard. Even if you're the first one who has to listen. Conclusion. You're not exhausted. You're compromised. You keep wondering why you're so tired. Why nothing, no nap, no vacation, no distraction seems to recharge you. You treat it like a mystery, like your body is betraying you. But the betrayal didn't start in your muscles. It started the day you abandoned your own voice for the comfort of others. You're not drained because life is too much. You're drained because you've become too little in your own life. You've made a career out of silence, an art form out of shrinking. You keep the peace, you avoid the fight, you swallow the need, and then you wonder why your chest is tight and your joy is dim. You confuse being liked with being alive. You confuse harmony with hollow. And you've been so careful not to disturb anyone around you that you've disappeared entirely. Well, here's your funeral for that version of you. The one who nodded instead of speaking. The one who smiled instead of saying, "That's enough." The one who mistook people-pleasing for virtue and called exhaustion just part of life. Let them bury that version of you, because you're done living like a ghost in your own home. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man should remove not only unnecessary acts, but unnecessary thoughts." And what's more unnecessary than the belief that your needs don't matter? That your truth is an inconvenience? That your presence is only welcome when it's polished, pleasing, and quiet? It's time to burn that script. If this message lit something in you, like the video now. Share it with someone who's tired for all the wrong reasons. Subscribe to Victory Stoic, where we cut the nonsense and get to what actually matters, reclaiming your mind, your voice, and your damn spine. Comment 1 if this one hit you where you needed it. Comment 0 if it didn't quite land, but don't walk away without saying something. Even one sentence. Drop your story below. The truth you've been biting back. The moment you realized fatigue wasn't physical, it was existential. We read everything. We build from it. We fight with it. Thank you for being here, for listening, for staying. And if today felt like a mirror instead of just a video, good. Mirrors hurt before they heal. Let the world adjust to your voice. You've spent long enough adjusting to its silence.